Okay, I guess we're going to get going. If people do join in, we can bring them in while we're going. Welcome.
Okay.
I'm Linda Gibbs. I'm Community Programs Director for Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust. And Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust is a private nonprofit organization. We work with landowners to protect wild, working, and recreational lands in the Tug Hill region. And we're really, really pleased to be able to have Cierra with us today to present all about native forest plants and to take us on Saturday on a field trip there to see them in person, but to bring us through a few of the native plants tonight, and then non-natives and invasives on Thursday night, and then Saturday's field trip. So we're really glad that she'll be with us, and we just wanted to welcome you all, and I'll hand it over to you, Cierra.
All right, thank you, Linda.
Thanks.
Yep, so I am Cierra Williams. I am the Horticulture and Natural Resources Educator at CCE of Jefferson County, and I do want to thank Linda and Tug Hill Tomorrow Land Trust for having me. All right, so we're going to get started. All right, so as far as our agenda, we're going to go over the meaning and importance of forests, and then the importance of native species in general. And then we're going to go over some of the types of native species you will find at the Joseph A. Blake Wildlife Sanctuary. And last but not least, we will talk about some conservation practices. So what is a forest? So there's so many definitions about what a forest is, but according to Britannica, it is a complex ecological system and natural resource in which trees are the dominant life form. So pretty much you're going to be finding with the majority of the forest, mostly trees, right? It could be a red pine forest, it could be a hemlock forest, but overall you will see tree canopies with species under them. And they can develop under a variety of conditions within these climatic limits, and the kind of soil, plant, and animal life differs according to extremes of environmental influences. So as we go forward, you'll see some of the species that will be covered at the field trip on Saturday. And with the type of forest, of course, they can be dominated by conifers like pines and hemlocks, but also you can see oaks, birches, maples, beeches, aspens, and other tree species. And they can develop under a variety of conditions within these climatic limits as well. And then with the Nature Conservancy, they have this photo where they talk about the benefits of tree-based restoration. So one of them can be erosion control, especially with stormwater runoff, and then carbon sequestration. It also helps mitigate the effects of climate change, especially with the rising temperatures. Having forests can cool down the temperatures and reduce greenhouse gases. And forests can improve mental and physical health for visitors. And last but not least, water purification for nearby communities and areas. So I wanted to bring up the Joseph A. Blake Sanctuary, which is in Rutland. This is where we'll be visiting on Saturday. So with their habitat, it is hardwood swamp, mature northern hardwood forest, and open wetland on the property. This site provides important habitat to white-tailed deer, snakes, resident and migratory birds, and more. So it's good to know when you're visiting a forest what it is and what animal species and plant species are in that forest. Just to kind of get an idea of like the environment, especially with the soils, how moist it is. Like for an example, with this sanctuary, it has a lot of moist land. And then we're going to go over the native species importance. So a native plant has evolved in a given area over a long enough period of time that it has developed essential relationships with this environment and other organisms in that area. And with native species, it is, as far as selecting them for your forest, it's good to know what can they be a host plant for. So for an example, you have the white-tailed deer, in which they do feed in general, but they do like to feed on certain species more than the other. And then of course, if you select certain trees for birds, because they like to eat seeds and berries. And then last but not least, with the monarch butterfly, they do like, they do prefer milkweed. So with a host plant in general, is pretty much where insects and mammals do rely on that species to lay their eggs, use them as a food source, and as rest as well. And why should you have native species in your forest? So one of them is pollination. So without pollination, the flowers won't be able to produce into fruit and into seeds, and therefore create new seedlings or saplings. Also, it can prevent soil erosion, and pretty much it helps well establish the forest overall. And then it can combat climate change and water conservation as well. So here are a few types that you may see at the sanctuary itself. So we have goldenrod. So there's different types of goldenrods, and its genus name is solidago. It does attract pollinators for nectar and nest sites. And around this time, you will start to see the flowers develop as well. And then you have the wild raspberry, which the genus name is rubus. So typically they have gland tip hairs with bristles on the stems. Non-flowering stems would have 5 leaflets. And as you can see on the leaves, they are a little furry as well with the hairs, and they are silver on the underside of it. And it's great food for birds and mammals. Now, you will notice that there is a lot of poison ivy, but it is a native species too. So it can look similar. There is the phrase, if there's 3 leaves, let it be. So it can also look like the raspberries that we just previously saw, box elder seedlings, clematis, beans, etc. So if you see this species, see the poison ivy, try to avoid touching it, and make sure you wear long clothing, whether it's long sleeves, long pants, in order to prevent that from getting on your skin. Now, there is a species that grow in the same soil conditions as the poison ivy. So they favor the same similar habitat, moist, porous soils, especially in the forest, and they attract pollinators like hummingbirds, bumblebees, and butterflies. And this is the jewelweed. So when you look at the flowers, some of them are yellow, some of them are orange, and you can see at the bottom of the flower it has kind of like a red tint to it as well. So when you see the poison ivy, more than likely you'll see the jewelweed as well, or vice versa. And with the jewelweed, it can be used as a medicinal to the poison ivy rash as well. And then as far as tree species, you will find the American beech, which the genus is Fagus, and then it is nesting for birds and mammals, and it can grow up to 50 to 70 feet in height and width. And then there is the eastern hemlock, and it can grow well in shade. Now, as far as maturity, it can grow up to 250 to 300 years, but some may live up to 800 years. So this is a very long-lasting tree species if you are interested in conifers. Now, with the cones, it is the smallest of its genus, and you may see like online to purchase pines, but it may actually be the hemlock cones. So it's really important to pay attention to the cones you see on each tree. And then there is the hemlock woolly adelgid, in which there are ongoing projects as far as scouting and treating it to help preserve the hemlock trees. Then we have the American basswood, also known as linden. They can grow 60 to 80 feet tall, and as far as their tree shape, it can be as a crown. With the crown, it can be conical, like this, to round as it ages. Now, with this tree, it can attract pollinators like bees and birds. And as far as the underleaf, it is silvery as well. So sometimes you would hear silver linden. Then we have the sugar maples, which is one of the largest of hardwoods. Sugar maple is usually known for harvesting the sugar, making maple syrups, etc. They are very tolerant of shade, especially at this sanctuary, and it is also a primary source of maple sugar. Then we have the bitternut hickories, and with this species is actually tolerant to the black walnuts. So with the black walnuts, they have the juglone toxicity, where the chemical is all throughout the plant, including its roots, which can be toxic to some species. So if you have black walnuts in your forest and you want species to tolerate them, bitternut hickory is one of them. And they have spring blooms, and after about 30 years, they usually start producing the nuts, and they can live up to 200 years. Then we have the red pine, in which it provides cover for many species of mammals and birds, and there is actually a red pine forest along the trail as well. Deer, small mammals, and songbirds do feed on the seed, and typically with the red pine you will see clusters of 2 needles, and they are conifers as well. Make sure you mute yourself. And then we have the wood fern, in which it kind of looks like a vase shaped clump, and it can grow up to 3 feet. It does have leathery fronds, and the ferns are one of the species that doesn't produce fruit, but they do produce spores to reproduce. And with the leaves, they're usually bluish green to olive green. So to learn more about the native species in our county, you can go to a few sites. One of them is New York Flora Atlas. When you go to it, you can search for the county and click on the option native, and you can see so many species that have been found in our county.
I want to let you know that I will be sending a follow-up email to you, so I will send these links to you so you don't have to rush to write them all down.
Thank you. And then we also do have a link called Native flowers, grasses, shrubs, trees, and vines. And this was created by DEC. And they actually have a list of native species throughout the state. So it's really good to know what type of species are in your county or state, just to kind of recognize them and see if they're native, non-native, or invasive. So we're going to go over the Healthy Forest and Wildlife Practices, which was created by the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Services. And the first thing is to diversify. So in this photo, you have a bunch of tree species, and it's very diverse. You can have the deciduous trees in which the leaves, you lose the leaves during the fall, or you have the evergreen / conifers in which you would see the see the leaves throughout the winter time. But it is good to diversify simply because you will need different host plants along with host plants, and try to pretty much every species will need something different. So for an example, like we talked about earlier, the monarch butterfly prefers the milkweed. So if you were to plant a bunch of milkweed, thank you.
You're welcome.
So in order to diversify, it's good to know the different species that you can plant in the forest. Another one is tree and shrub site preparation and establishment. So pretty much you're trying to figure out what conditions are needed, what's in the soil, and what trees or shrubs can be established in that area. So it's a really good practice if you're trying to improve or establish a forest. Then we have brush management and herbaceous weed control. So with brush management, it can be used to improve or restore native habitats. So you can treat invasive and noxious plant species by cleaning up the area. Some parks would actually hire goats in order to clean up the invasive or noxious weeds. So there's many methods that you can use for this management. And then there's structures for wildlife. So here we have an area where deer can thrive. They have shelter from the harsh weather conditions, and some people would consider it as a deer plot as well, just to see what type of wildlife they have in their forest. So you can set up structures like this for deer or other mammals or birds that you're trying to attract. And then we have the windbreak and shelter belt establishment. So when it comes to farms, they tend to try to have like a thick layer of forest, especially trees or shrubs, especially for windbreaks. So sometimes you will see a forest develop along croplands as well. And then as far as forest trails and landing, you're trying to prevent as much disturbance to the forest as possible. So one of those ways is by developing forest trails and different landings for people to look at a certain view, especially like over a cliff, over the water, etc. So one way is to create the trails. You can set something up on a map, and then just make sure you maintain the area. Consider tripping hazards, anything poisonous that might affect you as far as along the trail and other practices. Does anyone have any questions so far? As far as like the native species, you guys can unmute yourselves.
Sierra, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but with a jewel weed, I just wondered how that is used when there's poison ivy. Do you know?
Yep, so you'll be using the leaves. So if you rub the leaves, that will help with the rashes. But not
gotcha. Okay, it's in whatever's in the leaf will help.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, I have a lot of it around here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of like an immediate solution, and it not only helps treat with poison ivy, but other species that can cause a rash.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I've used it on mosquito bites too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, so overall, when it comes to native species, it's really good to know what is in your county again, or your state, and then, you know, definitely explore different forests, because with the Joseph A. Blake Wildlife Sanctuary, they have like hemlock forests, red pine forests, so it's really cool to know, and very important to know, okay, this grows in this type of forest, and other species grow in other forests. So it's definitely good to just take a trip out in nature. So if you guys don't have any other questions, we do have the non-native and invasive grassland species plants for this Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30. And then Saturday from 10 to 12, we have the on-site field trip to, sorry I have the wrong name on here, but it is the Joseph A. Blake Sanctuary. Yep, so I have that from the previous one. And then to register is the link below. And thank you guys for coming. I also have resources for you guys to look at. And then this will all be sent by Linda. All right.
So this will be sent. This information will be sent on email later.
Yes, Diane. What I'll do is send a follow-up email to everyone who registered and let them know where they can find the presentation after this if they wanted to watch it. And we also I'll send you all the links that Sierra included in her slideshow in that follow-up email so that you'll be able to link directly to them from your email.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Also, for the information that is on the Cooperative Extension event page, it was hard for me to find